Hello, everyone, and welcome to Skeptic Philosophy. I am Robert. This is my first live cast here. I've sent this out to a few people to let them know that I would be doing this today, but not a lot. Just kind of wanted to introduce myself. I'm fixing to start getting into this subject more, coming from a more skeptical side of philosophy. I came through a religious history and was what I now like to call fundy ever since I heard Skeptic Lou refer to it as a fundy, that he was a fundy. So yeah, I was a fundamentalist Christian and transitioned out of that and got into epistemology, just the subject of knowing and what constitutes knowledge. And it kind of helped me transition away. I think I, in large part, started transitioning into that subject because I was burned, if that makes sense. Once you're burned and you think you know something, and then you realize you were wrong about that, then you kind of want to know how you avoid that again in the future. So that was the big appeal to epistemology. And coming into the subject, there's a sense of whether you're looking at Kant or even Descartes to some degree, or Bertrand Russell or David Hume, there is this humility in claiming that they know a thing for a fact, and they're kind of evaluating the basis of knowledge more so. So I wanted to evaluate that and decide anything that I'm kind of accepting, I'm putting in my stack of knowledge, that it is justified. And this is kind of how I got into the subject of philosophy. It was my first introduction. And then later I got into the subject of ethics, be that virtue ethics or consequentialist ethics, and understanding, I guess, more of the deontological ethics models and whatnot. But I should have a link on the screen. It should be pinned there. Anyone that's coming in, if you'd like to join, I'd like to have a conversation with anyone in the subject matter, whether you're theist, whether you're atheist, whether you're agnostic, or whether you just see value or detriment in the subject of skepticism as a whole. Please come in, say hey, introduce yourself. This is just an opportunity. More so, I'm not picking a subject to talk about today. Just wanted to do a meet and greet and say hello to everyone that is in this social circle, whether it's in apologetics or whether it's just exploring ideals and trying to get more into the subject of ontology. Please come in, say hey, jump into the cast with me. I don't think there's going to be a lot watching, so should be an easy join. Just going to do a few things while I'm waiting on anyone to come in here. Check to see if my feed's running right. Maybe I should have put up a more provocative title, like "Debate Me, Bro." But I really wasn't interested in that being the topic. Just kind of want to introduce myself and say hey to people and find out who else is kind of in this field, in this genre of conversation. Hey man, how's it going? Rebuke and Reprove. I think there was another name that you went by, if I'm not mistaken, man. Seems like somebody else called you a different name. Maybe it was a name before you were running with that name. But how's it going, man? John 3:16, that's one that you want to talk about, or? This is kind of just an introduction to say hey to people in the community. I'm going to be running this probably for an hour and a half. So we'll be running this to probably 3:30 Central Standard Time, just to say hey to everyone. Not trying to get into much nitty gritty about the subject matter of ontology or theology. Just trying to give an introduction and say hey and figure out some of the players in the field. We had a little debate before, didn't we? I think we were pretty pressed for time, if I'm not mistaken. It was about whether there were contradictions. I think we established some of your eschatology in the subject. There's a link on the screen if you do want to come in here, man, and chat. There are 0 contradictions. Gotcha. Yeah, no. If you presuppose univocality, yeah, that's always going to be the case. That's the case with the Quran. Also, there's no contradictions, none whatsoever. As long as that's a necessity to have univocality inside of your framework. Then there's no contradictions that you can see as a contradiction. So because there's a will to rectify. But again, I don't totally want to get into that subject matter. I know we're in different opinions on the subject, but if you want to come in, we'll chit chat, and as other people come in, I don't know how many people I'll be able to have on the stage with this at one time. I am brand new to the subject, brand new to this software, but you should have a link if you do want to come in and chat on the subject. But again, today, trying to cycle through on the subject. I don't know how I even see if people are in queue. There we go. That's it. So while a little waiting for somebody to come in and chit chat, I'll give a little bit of the background that I come from. I started, I guess, very young in the church. I started as a Baptist, Trinitarian position. I guess as Southern Baptist, came into it very heavy from, I guess, about the age of 13 or 14. And then found a lot of meaning in the subject. It kind of gave me something to do and to focus on. And I felt myself called into the ministry. I fancied myself called by the age of, I guess, 15, which is quite young, but became very kind of fundamental very, very early on. And then through a bit of debate and conversations, I've offered $100 for anyone to find a contradiction, but no one has availed. Okay. Well, the problem is, again, you assume univocality. I mean, we can just start at the beginning. I don't want to get into the subject tonight. I mean, I think there's more than just one contradiction. There's literally hundreds of contradictions. And I do agree that there are some contradictions that appear to be contradictions that they're not. And I know that theists thump on the subject, or atheists thump on the subject, and they really don't understand kind of the vocabulary and the change in vocabulary behind the history. And so I heard someone very recently on the subject talk about bats aren't birds. But this is a category. The word that was just meant bird to them was just a thing that flies. So that was a categorical description. This was before taxonomy and whatnot. So when you look at like Leviticus and it says, it identifies the bat as a bird. Well, there's no one-to-one correlation for a word. This is just a set that means these things that fly. So you could look at that at the time and before kind of DNA and taxonomy that kind of categorize these things differently. That hadn't come around yet. So inside of the meaning, it didn't mean bird in the way that we think taxonomically as a bird. at the time. So when people pick on these subjects and say that this is a contradiction, I give you full merit that this is not a contradiction. But when you look at other things like who sold Joseph, for example, in the Old Testament, like did this group or that group sell Joseph to Egypt? I think we have two different verses. One says this group sold Joseph to Egypt, and another says this group sold Joseph to Egypt. And then there's this attempt to rectify, well, that somehow these groups are the same group. And there's a necessity for rectification because you presuppose univocality. So you have to make these reconcile to the degree that you impose ideals into the Bible to make reconciliation happen. So this is the problem to start with. You create whole new paradigms to make sure reconciliation of verses are happening. We do this with like the lineage of Luke and the lineage of Matthew. Well, these are two different lineages, and there's this different groups will try to rectify this problem differently. One will say, well, one was the legal lineage, or one will say, well, one was the lineage to Mary, not to Joseph. But both Matthew and Luke, they call this the lineage to Jesus. They say all the way to Joseph, they trace it to. So it's, or in Joseph's lineage, they trace it to the father. But this is problematic because both of them trace the lineage down to Joseph. And even by the time we get to Joseph's grandfather, we have two totally different people. And even if we were saying that there's a problem with this, that they were doing it for some legal reasons, this is the legal lineage compared to the actual lineage. I think one has 21 characters of lineage, whereas the other one has, I think it's 43 or 46 characters of lineage. So it's problematic. But as long as this can't be wrong, you force this can fit. You can make all these explanations that they're not biblical. You create extra biblical narrative to make these things operate inside of. I think that's the whole problem. If you already presuppose univocality, there's nothing that you can't fix. Even when we have like the king that was given power at 18, or he came in to reign at 18 in one verse, and another verse, he began to reign. Both verses use the term began to reign, one at 8 and one at 18. And this is problematic, but people try to explain that, well, he didn't really begin to reign, in one of them, he became the king, but he didn't exercise authority. He had his like the mother queen kind of took the authority. The problem is, then you have to change the text because both texts use the term he began to reign in both texts. So you kind of make this univocality happen. That's not a contradiction. Both are true. Both lineages are true. We're involved in the trafficking of Joseph. What? That's hilarious. The trafficking of Joseph. All right. Well, I don't know what that means. But like I said, you're more than welcome to come in here and chit chat with me on this subject. But I don't see how it's separate from the category of the Muslims saying that there's absolutely, in fact, I would say the Quran has far less contradictions in the Bible, but I think that's going to be an obvious, it looks to be more of a singular writer that's doing this. So univocality amongst a single writer is very easy. But even then, there seems to be some contradictory ideas. But from that perception and from that mindset that there can't be any contradictions, then you have the presupposition that there are no contradictions. So anything that is a problematic in the Quran or the Hadith or any of these books, no, there's a way that they rectify. There's a way that they don't have contradictions because you've presupposed the univocality in advance. So then you don't apply general normative standards of what a contradiction is. You make whole new standards because the totality of your goal is that there can't be a contradiction in the text. But again, if you want to come in here and have this conversation, you're welcome to. Is my audio coming through okay? Well, since you brought the subject, I don't mind, I guess, surfing around on it because I do need to fill a little bit of dead air on on this channel anyway. Again, I plan on being up here for at least an hour and a half. Um, that's such a long name to call you, rebuke and reproof. It seems like there was another name that you have been called by some people. I don't know if you prefer just being called rebuke and reproof or what. But I don't mind having a debate with you on my channel or yours. Let's get something scheduled this time. I think last time there was like a 40-minute at best, I think, rush to have a conversation that no one was prepared on. So I'm not sure exactly what the platforming of this channel is going to be and what I'm going to focus on. I don't mind doing debates. I don't have a problem with that. But I don't know that I want the centralized focus of this channel to be on the subject of debates. I'm still going to try to feel that out and see where I'm at. A lot of people are filling different niches in the subject, and I don't have a will to proselytize, so to speak. If people want to believe certain things, that's fine, but it doesn't challenge me. It doesn't harm me in any way, but I am interested in approaching things from a critical perspective, that not everything that we want to be true is intrinsically true because we wish it to be so. So I am against the very notion of the definition of how Hebrews defines faith as substance of things hoped for, the evidence of things not seen. That's problematic in that it initially applies that wanting something to be so has some force behind it that helps solidify it as being so. And that is how you brainwash yourself. That's a great methodology for brainwashing yourself, but it's not a great methodology for determining what reality is. It's a counterintuitive, and it's a problematic method of determining what reality is. I just will this thing to be so. I want it. I hope it. Oh, it is so. That's a problem. And then we have even a bigger problem when you realize that methodology, and let's call that faith, that methodology, if you apply it to another subject matter, it's seen as no, that's a bad idea. So when we say have faith and this has substance to it, well, what if we have faith in Zeus, for example? Is that a good thing? Does that help Zeus materialize more objectively? No, that's not how you use it. That's not how you use faith. You're using it wrong. Well, what if we have faith that we're going to win the lottery? That we just, I hope it and I will it so. Should I buy it, spend all of my money in the lottery? No, don't use it like that. That's a bad idea. So it seems like that using the very ideal of declaration that a thing will be so and believing a thing to be so, in a sense that it will help make it so in any way, shape, or form, it's detrimental in any other application, but it's touted to be beneficial in the application of believing in this specific religion. So the use of faith in believing in something, it's bad unless you use it in this very narrow window and category of believing in Jesus, of believing the Bible to be accurate and true. In this sense, it's beneficial. It's a quality that is considered as good, that God likes that. Thumbs up when we use faith in this way. But if you use it in any other way in terms of determining what reality is, nope, that's bad. You're using it wrong. Well, that's special pleading. That's all that is. So either the use of faith in determining what reality is bad, period, or it's good and we can show it in application to other things, which I don't think that's the case. So ultimately, I think the ideal of believing in something and not having any qualitative value to determine that thing to be real is just bad. It's great if you're a con artist you're trying to convince a person that a thing is true, but you don't have any evidentiary support, then telling that person to value believing in that thing without evidence that that's a good thing, then that's a great tactic. From a con man perspective, it's an amazing tactic. It has value to convince someone of a thing, and it creates, as the name con man implies, confidence. You can sell confidence in this manner, but you can't reach truth in this manner. So that's the problem I have with faith. But I didn't see that at the time whenever I was young and in this subject matter. But again, open invitation for anyone coming in. If you want to join, come onto the stage, chit chat with me. I'm not trying to get into the depths of a lot of this. Just kind of wanted to say hey to everybody and introduce myself. I will start doing live streams from here out. Haven't really picked a day yet that this is going to be set. Looking at probably Sundays or Fridays. I'm trying not to get into, honestly, this Saturday territory a whole lot, because it does seem like it's a fairly crowded field, especially later in the day. And there's a handful of channels that I like to watch myself and like to just come and chit chat and relax in, such as Captive Desk's channel and a handful of others. But I'd like for anyone to come in here, join, say hey, pop in. If nothing else, throw a shout out in the chat there and say hello, introduce yourself. Hello, hello, come on, come on. Sorry, I love these last two comments. Just to make some obtuse claim that with no explanation, and then you're like 0-1. I won that one. I totally won that one. I posted this, and this. I won. That's just amazing. That's amazing. Anyone at all interested in coming in saying, hey, chit chat with me a little bit, see what's going on in your life, what's going on in this sphere of debate, of disagreement, of intellectual challenges in the subject of skepticism and the subject of epistemology, theology, ontology. Come in, chit chat. We might have a little bit of a bust here is what it's starting to look like. But that's all right. At least we'll have the first one down and we'll start doing some cast. Maybe we'll get a regular schedule here. We'll get a few more people starting to visit. I'd like to chat with Skeptic Lou a little more. I'd love for like Objective Ethics to come on here. I believe that he's wanting to talk a little bit more about ethics and his kind of ethical model. I don't even mind talking to some folks like Bug Loves All and his PSR model and how he thinks that exists external or pre-Big Bang, I guess, because it seems like he's applying the logical framework pre-Big Bang, that the framework is still valid outside of the set. So I'm interested to talk to a few people that's into this category. What I'd like to do, probably more than any of these different ideas, rather than debate, rather than doing the kind of commentary and on someone else's videos, what I'd like to get into is pastoral conversations. I'd like to talk to pastors and preachers and just have more of a relaxed, laid back kind of conversation. And the reason that I mentioned that, and I've been talking to Hizzle and a few other people on the subject, and there seems to be, and I think there's a lot of agreement on this from the atheist side, is there seems to be a very different approach and character and softness to people that are preachers or pastors opposed to people that are into the apologetics side. And you can have more of a laid back conversation, that there's not this defensive mechanism. I think it's a byproduct of pastors and preachers being confident about what it is that they believe, whereas I think maybe apologetics has had enough challenges that come against them that they have developed more of a stiff fist position, that they feel more challenged. And subsequently, whenever you interact with people, it becomes more problematic for those inside of apologetics. Whereas preachers and pastors, you can have a conversation and not be very defensive or attacking yourself, and just kind of talk about these little issues. Hey, now how's it going? Azo64. Do have a link in the description if you wanted to come in and say, hey, stop now before we fight, right? Exactly. That's what we wind up getting in apologetics a lot. And it's why I would like to, I'd like to kind of have a show that's something like, that's something similar to having a pastor on, and just kind of a pastor and an atheist conversation. I'd like to be able to do a series of just conversating with different pastors and preachers, and them kind of giving their push and giving a little pushback on the subject matters, and just kind of filling one another out and the ideas. I'm not a very go for the throat kind of guy. To some degree, I think that people latch onto the ideas that they latch on to because there's voids and necessities in them that they don't know how to compensate for another way, or maybe they were taught to compensate for them in a certain way, or taught to believe a thing, and then that thing kind of slipped into the void. When they're in pain, when they're hurting, they rely on that thing, and that's a thing that they depend on. So it's not my interest to try to pluck anything out of someone and say, no, you can't believe that, this is totally wrong. I'm not greatly interested in that. Sometimes it does get a little more hardline in subjects, especially when we talk about ethics and people start representing a position that you can't have ethics unless you have this. So that does get a little more hardline, and we get more definitional and surgical in the subjects. But for the most part, I come into this subject because I left the church, and I won't say an ardent atheist, but become very, yeah, I see you. Very defensive initially, and then I just become interested in the subject, and I've been, I guess, an atheist, if you want to call it that. I've been that for probably 20 years, and uninterested in really having the conversation. I was interested more so in learning and just reading, primarily in the subject of epistemology, but then later into the subject of ethics and ontology and other things. But I went into dormant argument stage, and that I didn't want to argue with people because I felt there's this thing like if they took this pill, they needed it, so to speak. So I didn't want to try to argue them away from that. But then what has happened is religion has become more embattled with people's rights to avoid that religion. And it's become that they've pushed it back into politics in a way. They're pushing it onto the political stage, into the school systems. And then it happened. My daughter in a public school is being led in prayer by the school teacher. And I realized this is not a thing that I can just avoid anymore. This is not a subject that we can just set back, because it's not good enough that they believe what they want to believe and leave us alone. It's just, there is a proclamation that they have, that they seem to have this authority to break others' rules, society's rules, and other people's individual freedoms, that they are given permission under the auspice of that they have to proselytize, that they have to bring in the sheaves. And this gives them permission to push into schools and into the minds of young and credulous children, to teach them, oh no, this thing is true. We got to catch them when they're young and teach them these things. And this has violated personal space. This has violated people's own autonomy and their own autonomy to self-govern themselves and their family. And it won't stop. It will not stop. So this is why I kind of come back into the subject matter. I was content to leave this alone for a very long time. So now this is in large part set my goals, that my goal is that I want to have this conversation, and primarily with pastors and preachers, that I want to have this conversation about their responsibility to respect other people's individual autonomy, or whether they believe that they have some permission to step over that individual family autonomy to push ideas and concepts into the minds of young, incredulous people, as well as to push their ideas of moral concepts and other things into the legal space, and to enforce that at a legal level upon other people, and where they think they get this permission from, and how they rectify that with normative ideas of morality. So that's the conversation that I would like to have more so in the sphere, but I get that it is a crowded sphere of talking about everything in between. Ajo, however you say that, I'm sorry. If you're still in here, I'd love for you to pop in here and say hey to me, man, if you want to come on the channel. I think there should be still a pinned comment. If not, I'll definitely put another one up there. But anybody that's interested in coming in and chatting with me, I'd like to say hey to everyone. And that's the primary reason of this video today. Again, I'm going to run for about an hour and a half. So I've already ran for about an hour here. No, I'm sorry, 30 minutes. Wow. So 33 minutes. We're going to probably run this to about an hour and a half long video. So we got about another hour. But if you're interested in coming in, saying, hey, not a lot of people. Hey, there we go. How's it going, man? What's happening, man?
You had to mute my other one. I forgot to jump on here. I'm usually too shy for this, and that's a lie. That's a flat out lie. I do stream myself, and matter of fact, I don't know if you've ever heard of the Kentucky Atheist.
Yeah, I have. I haven't. I think I recently subscribed to him, but I haven't seen a video come up since that. So
yeah, I used to do up to about a year or so ago before I walked away. Co-hosted shows with him over there for a while. Now I'm in like a it's got Theist and Atheists, all in the same little kind of community. Yeah, which is very interesting at times.
Yeah, sure. But I think it helps humanize the other side a little bit when you can kind of push two communities together. It creates a lot of tension sometimes, obviously, but I think it humanizes in that you can see more of people's perspective and understand why they towed the line that they do.
Right. Oh, yeah, definitely. And then also to find out what their real name is, it's easier to cuss at them when you know their real name. It's more effective.
Come on now.
And I literally don't. I try not to, but yeah, it gets heated. But like everybody around me seems to be the nuts ones, and they're the theists that are arguing, doctrine between each other. And of course, when the atheist pipes up, what do you know? You're an atheist. You've never read the Bible. It's like, oh, I have it now. Let's,
right.
Many of them will tell them, they won't even mess with not. And I'm not bragging, because but I do have Bible knowledge, and that's what caused me to become an atheist was that Bible. They don't like that answer or anything, but I did more Bible reading after I left than when I thought I was a Christian.
It's weird because when people are coming from less fundamentalist religions, they, especially in apologetics, they know that one of the big reasons of conversion of people, kind of deconversion, kind of leaving the church, is because of a fundamentalism perspective that cannot be reconciled with reality. So you'll see this a lot with like apologetics that are more, I won't say liberal, but they're not all fun. Oh, the Earth's only 6,000 years old, and kind of these very fundamentalist perspectives. They know that this is damaging to the church, that these positions. And they'll say, well, the whole reason you left the church is because, you were in the fundamentalist kind of thing, to come back to the softer side of Jesus, that there's not this harder line of this is what reality is because the Bible says it. So we're in a dome, or I don't want to tie them all into flat earthers or something, but there's all levels of this fundamentalism kind of, I believe this thing because that's the strictest, interpretation of biblical text.
Yeah, and what's weird is a lot of stuff I never even heard of until I came to YouTube. I mean, I've been, heck, I was, been on AOL, MSN chat rooms, Yahoo chat rooms, Pal Talk, as a believer or thought he was a believer, and then
Yeah.
found YouTube. And I mean, and when I say I found it, I mean, I used it for videos or, hints on how to, change the rear end of a certain car or whatever. But then all of a sudden I saw they had live chats, and I still to this day can't remember how I even found an atheist one. And it just,
Yeah.
went from there. But then they were talking about flurfers, and it's like, excuse me, I'm a new guy here. I know the old guy. What's a flurfer? It's like, oh, that's got
I'm not
flat
familiar
Earth.
with the flurfer.
And it's like, no way. People cannot believe in this. Then I heard the NASA deniers, and then all the conspiracy theories in my world, that were like legend and not so much real, come to life on YouTube. And it's like, you got to be kidding. I must have went to sheltered churches, because like I said, I've never heard of, anybody really believing in a flat earth or, I mean, back in the Middle Ages.
Yeah. Well, it's weird because I kind of knew that there was flat earthers that were going on, but I didn't know that there was as strong as like a biblical connection as what I knew that there were flat earthers, and I thought this is just a different group of nuts. These are totally separate.
Yeah, but that's they're a group under their
they're
own.
very connected. Now there are, believe it or not, atheist flat earthers.
Yeah.
But they're a small niche. I think the majority of them, I think there's two primary foundational things that are driving them. Is one, that they believe that they have, first of all, biblical univocality, which we were into just a moment ago.
Yeah.
That there's that the Bible's, that they feel like the Bible says this thing to be true, and they're sticking to this in a fundamental, and that it can't be wrong. First of all, is the first primary assumption, and that it appears that it insinuates this thing, and that can't be wrong. And then I think the second thing is this will to conspiracy, that somebody has some motivation behind, which is, to me, has always been the biggest problem with flat earthers. It's not even all of the science that is just, intellectually bankrupt. It's the conspiracy, like the motivation. Why would all of the countries, what's their motivation behind this?
Right.
And that to me seems like the best that they have gotten to is, well, it's just a general trying to convince somebody. It's more like if you can convince somebody that something's true that's not true, then that's the beginning of you having this appeal to authority, that you can convince somebody of everything.
Right.
So it's this general kind of whitewashed, motivation. But it's ridiculous. It doesn't have any kind of foundational motivation.
Well, even like young Earth creationists, I kept running into all this, and like even as bad as Pal Talk was, JWs and Calvinists was about as bad as it got. And then when I got into the fundamentalists, the IFB especially, the King James only cults, the rapture, dispensational nonsense. I'm sure I've heard of it before, but that was never really pushed or taught like it was gospel. And some of these people,
eschatologies are weird.
That's your salvation. It's like, even as an atheist, show me a verse that says that this is all dependent on salvation. First it's just believe, then it's get baptized and believe, confess Jesus, and when does it stop?
Yeah. Well, you don't have complete univocality in the book. No. And the problem is it just depends on which one you're going to pick. And are you going to pick Paul's faith, alone, or are you going to go with James's more faith and works? Works are important too, so it really just it depends on which one you kind of back that. And then later there's this, oh no, they have complete univocality. Yeah, that's why there's so many different denominations.
Right, that's what I'm saying. There's 47,000, that would agree with that statement. Not
right. And some of it might be translational. We have a little bit of disconnect that happens over time with wordage, and kind of we imbue extra meanings onto words. So then there's not a one-to-one correlation like this, our English word to their to their older words. So you have a little bit of that's going on. But I have to ask you, I see the name Ajo here. Is this Hizzle?
This is actually,
you were in
this stems back. It's actually supposed to be like a-hole. And this stems back to my softball days. A buddy of mine was an umpire, and he was in a game with us, and he's like, if you weren't my friend, I'd kick you out for just being an a-hole. I said, I tell you what, Larry, that I'll just go ahead and get that put on my, my name. He's like, no, you do that, we won't be able to let you go out there because it's, kids know what that is. It's like, oh yeah, I didn't think of that.
Gotcha.
I told him, I said, I'll think of something that you will both know, and then find out. Everybody, once you see it, you see it.
Yeah,
I had a vanity
absolutely.
plate with this on there. Went to a Metallica concert. We were leaving, me and my girlfriend at the time. I had people walking by taking pictures of this, and she's like, "What's going on?" It's like, I don't know. And I had just gotten my plates like within a week or so, and they're like, "Cool plates." And it's like, "Oh yeah, that ego puffed up." But yeah, it's so this way when I'm called an asshole, it's like, yeah, okay, I got the screen name.
That's my name.
That phases me.
I hear you. Yeah. Was I chatting with you the other day in a channel? Were you using the name Hizzle, or is that a different guy?
That's somebody else.
Okay.
I've seen them. I think they're in like breakfast chats. I think
the accent and the voice, it sounded a little bit the same. And me and Hizzle, which is he's regularly over on Breakfast Tacos, and because sometimes when people have different applications when they log into, they'll have a different name. And like my Discord is Raven, so we'll have the name Raven. And
unless I change it as a joke, it's asshole everywhere. There might be. Because it's supposed to be like asshole teddy bear now, because of just, asshole. Then it's a teddy bear because a buddy of mine, oh, you're such a teddy bear for an atheist. It's like, what do you mean for an atheist?
Yeah.
I mean, for anybody, for a human, know.
Yeah.
So that's where this one came from.
Yeah. What state you from, man?
Indiana.
Yep.
Just
born and raised in that area?
Pardon me? Oh,
born and raised in that area?
I was born here. And when my sperm donor, because he's not my father, I got a different father for that.
I understand.
Did a lot of traveling with his work. He promoted a lot of things, circuses, put out a church directory, which was kind of ironic once I found out what this was years later, because you're putting out a church directory as an atheist. He believed probably less in God than I did, and I just I didn't even know what it was that he was, to be honest. I had no care about that, but yeah,
I'm from Louisiana, and I don't know how your religious kind of structure in that state is. What's your biggest religion there in Indiana, or what's the most influential, I guess, on the area?
Well, see, I'd say Methodist, but really, it seems like Indiana's really heavily into non-denoms. Especially with the Calvary Chapel churches, or just like the Christian church title even. But I mean, at least I live in a little town, but I think we've got 20,000 in our whole county, and the county seat, Crawfordsville, probably has literally a church on every corner. And I bet you we have every religion other than, I don't think I've ever seen a Jewish mosque or synagogue, or a Muslim synagogue here. I don't think we have that.
Much for Catholic, or is it primarily Protestant?
I would say mainly Protestant, but there is a Catholic church. You got St. Bernard's, but I gotta say Bernard's. But like I said, I think a lot of it, there's 2 AOG churches, several Church of God or Church of Christ, or whatever they are, which I find them very dogmatic. But really,
you said Methodist. Is this more of the break-off Methodist or the United? The reason I'm asking is I'm trying to get a feel for how progressive the churches are in your area.
Oh, because originally, I was raised Catholic for the first 12 years of my life. Then Mom met who I call Dad now, who passed away a few years, but his family, we were in Florida. And that's what I was saying earlier. And sorry, sometimes I forget what I'm talking about. I'm on a chemo pill, and sometimes you kind of froggy. But I was born in Indianapolis. Somehow we ended up in Florida for most of our lives, but bounced all over the place. And then when Mom met who I considered to be my father in Florida, he was from Indiana. So they wanted out of Florida, but decided to move back to, because matter of fact, we're living we bought the house that he was born in. It's been in the Chadwick family for over 100 years. So it's historical, whatever. And they wanted to make sure it stayed in the family sort of thing. But then we came here, we started going to a Methodist church, the United Methodist.
Yeah.
Then a few years later, we ended up somehow what's called Woodland Heights Christian Church. So basically a non-denomination church. But like I said, they're all over Indiana as far as I know.
Yeah. Our state, Louisiana, it is primarily Protestant now, but it's still got like a lot of Catholic structural stuff. So you got like a lot of hospitals down here that are Catholic, and Catholics just have the money behind the large kind of institutional things. So you have more schools that would be Catholic, whereas you don't really have Protestant schools very much, or they're small schools. They're a pocket of a bunch of little almost daycare like schools that are going on.
I was going to say like homeschooling, schools, which to me kind of, I guess if it works.
Yeah, that's going on a lot down here in Louisiana. So that's kind of our influences, but still more of a larger institutional influence. And like I said, primarily hospitals. Catholics still definitely have a hold of the majority of that range.
Yeah, around here we got a lot of Catholic, like Saint Francis, Saint Vincent. Some of the bigger ones around here. Then like where I go to the cancer center there, it's part of IU Medical, but like the main building there that's been there for centuries is a Methodist church. It's actually called Methodist Hospital.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of different.
We don't have a lot of that. Well, there's some. We have Methodist does have a little bit of that in Louisiana, northern Louisiana. We have a little bit more like Methodist mental health care places.
St. Jude. I forgot about St. Jude's. We got St. Jude's Children's Hospital here too.
Yeah.
I know there's two or three other ones I can't think of, but what's weird is that when you said like around here, generalized in the United States, I can give you stats off the top of my head, but you said like around here, and it's like, oh my gosh, I really don't know. I literally have to think about it, but definitely Protestant, but like, out of that group, it would be definitely, a non-denominational opposed to like Baptist or, Lutheran or, something like that.
Well, I asked because it's the sea that we swim in, so to speak, when you're talking about local religions, like the people that we're engaging with in the workforce and just everywhere in general. And it might have been more influential in our encounters as we grew up, even with the kids that we, come through school with. These are going to be kids that were influenced by these religions and whatnot. Right. So it does have a bearing on us.
Oh, yeah.
And I think the Catholic Church is they're kind of pulled back from the fundamentalism. You don't really run into fundamentalist Catholics, really. That's primarily inside of the Protestant pockets. But I think the Catholic Church has, if I'm not mistaken, the majority of, if not all of the Catholic Church has accepted evolution. That evolution just is the case.
Right. It's weird though. It's actually because, like I said, the other room I'm part of, which we never talked about how like the Pope and his position on evolution is now, from somebody that lives it sort of thing. But it's weird though that if the Pope all of a sudden decides to say evolution's true or backs it or, however he wants to word it, millions of people are going to, or billions, almost a billion, are going to start believing it overnight. Whereas before they, were like, oh no, not wholeheartedly, but a lot of them are pretty much fundamentalists when it comes to God created. He did it, he done it.
Well,
he talked me out of it.
I think what's weird now, opposed to like 40 or 50 years ago, like it's like a ratio of influence. If you think about it, like right now, the majority of people, whether they're Christian in a Catholic group or in a Protestant group, they're still having a lot of political influence on them. So they have inside of their religious groups, so let's say they're Catholic, but they have these political connections and ideas too. And the political connections might say something like that's wrong, or that they're against a position that the Pope might say this is true. And they're kind of poured between the Pope and their political positioning. Whereas 50 years ago, they might not have been connected to kind of a fundamentalist politics side, that they were just connected to the Pope. So when the Pope says, look, I think the quote was, evolution in the Darwinian sense is no longer a mere hypothesis. And I forget the name of the Pope that said this, but when he says something like that and they don't have the political influence, then they can say, okay, evolution is the case, and then at an institutional level in the school systems and so forth, they start accepting this. So it makes short work of the subject. But if that happened right now in today's American kind of area of politics, I think that we would have there would be a mass exodus from the Catholic Church.
Right.
If it presently was when this is starting to transition, because they're connected to these kind of fundamentalist political ideas just as much, if not more, to their religious ideas.
Oh yeah, they're a lot of them, their heads would explode. You've been to the Rabid Atheist panel, haven't you?
Yeah. Yeah, I have.
That's weird, because I kept thinking, man, I've seen you. That it's like, oh, maybe it was that breakfast taco, but it's like, no, I've seen you.
No, I haven't spoken
over there.
Yeah, he's never. I don't think the Rabid Atheist have guest on? Has he ever had guest on?
Well, yeah, I've been on there very rarely, but I mean,
I've never been on it.
Generally,
I've chatted.
Oh, go ahead.
I've chatted in the side chat, and he's brought it up on screen, and we've had a little bit of back and forth with me just typing, and I think my picture comes up, connected to it, but I've never been on it. And I've been on Skeptic Lou, and I've been Brooklyn Lou, the Skeptic, and I've been on a few others. I think it's been a little while, but Dave had me on his channel before on the Captive Desk, and then
I've been on Days.
Yeah, and then I've popped in before on the one you were just talking about, Breakfast Tacos.
Yeah.
But I believe that's about the extent of what I've been on. Well, I say that. I went one time on Rebuke and Reprove here. Went on his because he was. Yeah, I know. And it was.
No, I know Jill. That's why I said I call him Jill, because he also has Jesus as Lord as one of his other names. And this
Jill, that was the name I was looking for earlier, because I was like, that's such a long name. I swear people call this guy by a shorter name, and I couldn't think of what it was.
Yeah, we all call him Jill over there. But yeah, I know him. That's why I was saying, don't get me to fighting when he's telling me when he was trying to say that there was no contradictions in the Bible. That's easy.
Yeah.
But then again, he's going to explain them all the way anyway, because I know how Jill is. So, I mean, he's a Calvinist. What do you expect? It was predestined for him to be fighting.
Right. It's weird. I made a video that I talked about this subject with like what is normative, what we would consider like if it was a contradiction, if the event happened. And I gave the example of someone dying. That let's say you have an email that come from your friend James, and he says, hey, did you know Joe died? I heard that he got hit by a car. And then another friend, Ron, emails you and says, hey, Joe died. I heard he got shot. What we would generally immediately think, there must be a problem. Either one of them's wrong or both of them's wrong or whatever. But what happens when you presuppose univocality is you try to make this, the car was going and he was shooting. See, he hit them with the car and shot them at the same time, right? So we presuppose the univocality to
the version I heard is he got hit by the car and the gun in the pocket went off and killed himself with his own gun.
There you go. Whatever we can do to make it not contradictory. Right, but that's like in normal reality, we don't try to rectify that. We just back up and say, "Hold on, that doesn't line up." There must be a problem here.
Any other situation that's normal, you say that with religion, and no, you're a hater,
Yeah, absolutely. But the point was, this happened with what's his name, Judas. We get two different accounts of Judas's death. In one, he falls headlong in a field and dies, and in another, he hung himself. But in the text where he hung himself, he was just inside of the city and thrown down the silver, right? And then he left, it says, and immediately he went and hung himself. But this is not out in a field, right? He's inside of the city. He had just left the temple.
Well, what he did with the money, I believe, is a contradiction. It's been a while since I went through this argument. But also, who bought the field? Was it the priest?
Right. There's a contradiction there.
There's several contradictions,
there's the contradiction there.
Yeah.
But the reason that I like to focus on the primary one about the method of death is because there's what we call it's like a manifestation or a psychoprojection of an object, that you have to create a thing that isn't anywhere in the text to make the text non-contradictory. If you've ever seen any visualization of the tree in which he hung himself from, the tree is not mentioned anywhere in the Bible. It's not mentioned in the text where he hung himself. It's not mentioned in the field whatsoever. The tree exists because it's being projected to unify the two verses. Because if he's in the city, he could have hung himself from any building. If he was in the city, when he left the temple, he could have went back to whatever hotel or room he was staying in, hung himself there. He could have hung himself anywhere. But if he hung himself and he was in the field, which are two totally different verses, then he had to have a tree. So what happens is they manifest the tree. No, the tree had to exist. So then you create a characterage that helps you unify the two verses together, and there's no reason to even try to unify them. If we looked at he was shot and he was hit by a car, we wouldn't try to unify them. We would just think, it's just contradictory. But they wanted to unify so bad that they manifest a psychoprojection that it's not mentioned anywhere in the text. But if you talk to any Christian, the tree is a guarantee. The tree had to have existed because they have to assume univocality.
Right.
Well, it's very interesting.
It's like rebuking in the. I'm guessing when he said something about there's no contradictions in the Bible, you must have said something about how did Joseph get to Egypt then, or that whole thing, and he come back well, that's not a contradiction. Both are true. Both groups were involved, and that's why I don't stop at just one contradiction if they're there, because I can see Jill saying, okay, the same thing. Oh, the rope broke. He fell on rocks. His burst. But Jill, it also says, that the temple priest didn't want the money. They bought, the field because, with blood money, why it's called Potter's Field or whatever it's called.
Yeah.
But then he would have to say, oh yeah, but you got to understand that was on a Tuesday. If this would have happened on the Wednesday, it would be a contradiction. So yeah, that covers that one up. So then if there's another contradiction, there's only so many, side steps that they can take.
Right. Well, here's the problem. I finally now I realize what he's saying, that both were involved in the trafficking, and he just tries to categorize it as trafficking.
Right.
But the problem is there's two different verses that specifically says this group and names the group sold Joseph into Egypt. And then the other one says this group sold Joseph into Egypt. So the problem is, like, you can make it look like this group sold him to this other person, and then they sold him in Egypt. But then when we have two different texts, they're saying both sold him into Egypt. There's a problem because you can't both be the seller selling him into Egypt. If you've already sold him to the other group and then they took him in, then you can't just, they were both involved in the trafficking, hand waving, both were involved in it. Okay. There's obviously a contradiction because both of them couldn't have done the act of selling him into, and that's the same way with the 18-year-old king, can't think of his damn name. That one verse says he began to reign at 18, and the other verse says he began to reign at 8.
Oh yeah.
And they do this. Well, when he was 8, he got, he come into power, and he was the king, but he had the what do they call it? The queen regent, or something like the queen regent, that she was still, had authority. He didn't begin to take the power until he was 18. Well, that's great. That's all fine and dandy, except for the verse said he began to reign in both contexts, both as an 8-year-old and an 18.
Right.
So how do we rectify this without saying, oh, no, there's no contradiction. We have to reinterpret these terms,
But you got to squint just a little bit, turn your head at a 45-degree angle perfectly, and you'll see what I'm talking about. I think it's also like Who Killed Goliath. I believe that's the other one that I always go to. It's like they try to step around it, but it's like, wait a second, we're talking about two different accounts, and I believe it's in two different books, at least in two different chapters. Why would it be different in two different areas if it's the same story from different perspectives?
That one gets a little more complicated.
Right.
Hey, now how's it going? App person non gata, who's I swear I've seen this face before, man. You're welcome to jump in here. Hey, man, I know that face. I don't know that name though. It looks like it was James or something. I believe you were operating by. If you're interested in popping in here, I believe I do have the channel tagged. I'm inviting everyone to come and say, hey, this is my first cast here, and I will put it up either way again if you don't see it. But if you want to come in and say, hey, that'd be great. Let me see if I can get. I don't know how to operate this damn thing to save my life. There we go.
Man, it took me forever.
Here we go.
Look at it.
There we go. James, that's the name that I know you by.
Awesome. Thank you.
Oh, duh. Hey, how you doing, James? It's been a while.
Doing good. Yeah, it's been a while.
Yeah.
Yeah, just saying, hey.
I was looking at the pictures. I know that face, and that's a hell of a beard. But anyway.
Sure.
Yeah, I've been following you a little bit. I saw quite a few of your videos, and I've kind of slowed down on making videos myself, but I need to get back into the subject a little more. But I definitely did want to start getting into live streaming and having conversations. And I was saying earlier, I don't really know the niche or whatnot that I'm going to try to fill on this, but I'd like to be able to engage with atheists and theists alike, and it not be so much a go for your throat, kind of like
Right.
the bloodbath one over on breakfast tacos, and just kind of have conversations. But we'll have to fill out how my niche is going to work here.
Yeah, breakfast tacos is very spicy over there.
Yeah, it's spicy. It's not everybody's flavor.
That's like
I don't mind getting into it a little.
Yeah, it's like saying a ghost pepper is a hot pepper. It's a little spicy.
Yeah, it gets a little ad hominem for me. It gets a little personal attack kind of for me, and that we get more into the personal attack than we do into the subject matter. So that's a little deterring for me. But no, I get that works. That brings a lot of people in. So I can't knock it. He's making a living off of it, I believe, right now.
Oh yeah, dumpster fire is where it's at.
Yeah.
Serious. It's sad. I mean, I can just take so much of that myself. I mean, of course, I'm 180 years old, so I do spicy.
That could be a great name for a channel. Holy Ghost Peppers.
Yeah.
Yeah, picture of Casper with a shotgun.
Yeah.
James, if you don't mind me asking, what state you from or what area, man?
So I grew up in Michigan. I'm currently in Indiana.
Hey.
Yeah.
So it's asshole. I don't know how to say it, asshole, or I guess that's the best way to say it. Because I was originally doing it ashho.
Ashho,
as if the Z and the H are connected phonetically.
That's why we get into the really pious theist. Most of them takes a long time before they'll finally just say screw it and eventually say a or asshole. But a lot of them call ace or as or something like that. It's like, okay, you can say ass, but you can't say ho. But a lot of times, it used to be, I have people ask me, "Are you from Arizona?" I said, "Hell yeah, I'm from Arizona. I'm an Arizona hoe." It's like, how do you fit the hoe into this? Is what I want to know. But yeah,
there's these diphthong rules though about the vowel and then the consonants connected to it that intuitively when I see it, I don't know why I want to say the Z and the H are connected and just say ashho.
Well, when I went to get my
I get it that it's asshole.
Yeah, in Indiana, they had a really hard problem for a while with people are getting complaints because people have certain things on their license plates. Go figure. And I was trying to figure a way around this because and part of it was the girl or the lady that was in there. I've known her for years. Second thing is, it's like, thank goodness I think quick on my head because I knew what the question was coming, and I kept trying to think of what this could represent other than what it represents. And it's like, I'll just tell Paula, it's what you think it is. If you don't reject it, you do. But she's like, well, what's this name, mean? And I, off the top of my head, a zero. And it's like, oh my God, that fits so good. Why couldn't I think of that 2 days ago? But so I told her that. She wrote it down, and it could have still been rejected. But sure enough, in the mail, I got my license plates. And my son for years wanted to get asshole junior, and I said, no, you haven't earned that yet.
You gotta work at that one. So James, from Michigan area, my grandpa, he was from Flint. He worked for the GMC company for years and years. You anywhere around that kind of, or was you from around that kind of industrial area?
Yeah, so I was born in the Detroit area, and then I grew up in southeastern Michigan. So Flint would have been on the outskirts of the territory that I would identify with, sure.
Yeah. I think he lived in Flint and then just came in. I don't know where the GMC plant was back then, but he worked for them for years and got into, I think he started as just a lineman and then kind of got into the engineering side. So he got into safety engineering. Him and another guy actually developed the buckle that you push from the top because all of the buckles were the square buckles that you push from the side.
Oh, yeah.
You know what I'm talking about? And
buckle.
then GMC introduced the first top seatbelt buckle that you push down from the top.
Wow.
And then it kind of, everybody else started making copies of it. But him and another guy, what he told me when I was a child anyway, is that they developed that top buckle there.
Yeah, I mean, that was the downfall of Flint eventually, is when the automakers pulled out. It was essential to their infrastructure. So.
Yeah, he was retired. I'm 45 now. He was already retired from there, and him and his brother retired from there very young. And he was in the Army for a little bit, and then wound up going there. Met my grandma from Louisiana. So that's where Michigan and Louisiana folks met. He was in the Army, and she was in the Army there.
Nice. So yeah, so you had somebody over in chat, Rebuke and Reprove. I think I've talked to them before. Is that one lady?
No, it's a guy. Yeah.
Oh, it's the guy, and he sometimes streams with that lady that has her own channel.
Maybe he also goes by Jesus is Lord. They'll call him Jill, for sure.
Yeah, Jill. That's right. Notorious JIL. Absolutely.
Yep. The Calvinist.
Sure. Calvinism always amuses me. It's like, at one point, somebody's like, I think we can make Christianity even uglier. There's got to be a way to make it even more awful. Hold my beer.
That's
I got
great.
this.
Hold my beer.
You first got to create the IFB.
Yeah.
Oh, we were mentioning different people that I was on, and you know where you might have seen me was actually Trusted Ape. I was on Trusted Ape was the other one.
Yeah, I know Trusted Ape.
Yeah, we've chit-chatted a little bit, and I've been on his.
I've been taking like a break from a lot of channels just because I mean, especially when I was streaming all the time, I just got burnt out. Now I stream once, like every Thursday on my buddy's channel. Just
gotcha
because he likes doing it. It's like, what the heck? I come up, but it's also kind of nice being an atheist on a theist channel with a lot of theists in there, because I did something like 2 months ago on the Second Kings, the she-bear one, because somebody within the group that had left, his interpretation of that just didn't set well with me. And when I was talking to Gigi about it, he said, if you want to do a show, do it. He said, you've got controls, you can kick who you want. And I said, it's not like that. But it actually
turned out. What's the channel name?
Gangster Ghost.
Gangster Ghost. I don't know how to get. I don't know anything about the settings on this yet.
And actually, if you're looking for atheist or like atheist and theist, interaction, that's one that. But I mean, it's definitely theist dominated. But I've got control over there, as the big boy admin. I don't know if this will.
Definitely interested in coming into the topics more. Like I said, I did hope for today to be a little bit more.
You're gonna have to cut and paste that. Obviously, as I'm not an admin, so it's just regular. But just it's a long name that he has there. I can't remember what it is.
I'll put it there, and then I'll copy and I say I'll copy and paste it. It won't let me copy and paste it.
Oh, that's.
You know what? You can do it in the private chat.
Oh yeah, that's what I was going to do. Oh my gosh. Yeah, this is my first stream. I feel like it at times. Jesus.
Hey, it's all good. I don't have these.
How about I get graded on this?
That's all right. Let's see here. Let's do it like that. There we go. That'd be great. But yeah, I'll check it out. And James, I think I'm already subscribed to you. I've seen you a few times, man.
Yeah, and I do appreciate it.
Yeah. What's the software you're running? I know you don't mess with the one that I'm messing with right now here, the StreamYard. You do another one, EM something?
Well, I was doing StreamYard, but I ran out of free hours for the month. Yeah. I refused to give them $50. So.
Oh, is this hour orientated? You have an X amount of time on it?
But the free version only has so many hours.
Okay. 20 hours a month. I use it. See, I use that mainly because StreamYard's better. But like with Restream, it's still limited, functions. But there you can stream all month if you want. The storage is an issue, but you can stream every day, and it's still free.
All right, I'll try that. Yeah.
They have one that I've been looking at running a plugin for the OBS, and one called Ninja something that you can create a plugin. What is it?
I think Ninja. It's from OBS. Ninja OBS, I think.
Yeah, but you can download it as a plugin for sure on OBS, and then you can just bring people in on the subject. So I might wind up messing with the OBS on the subject. I don't know. The price for the packages on StreamYard seems high, and everybody else that I look at, they're not as high, and I don't know why. But maybe the functionality. I don't know. Looking at what it offers, it doesn't look like the functionality is worth the price.
maybe a tip or advice. They generally have every year so far done like a 50% off Christmas deal, and that's what I'm kind of waiting for. But what sucked is I went from like $100 the year before. They sold StreamYard to somebody, and of course they're wanting to get their money back right now. So it went from like the normal price of like $200 to I think it was $430 for a year, because I do by the year.
Yeah.
Just because.
Yeah, I was looking at it by the year, and it's like $430 or somewhere in there. It was pricey.
But if they do a half off without raising the price, of course, I might do $200, a year. That's not bad.
Yeah,
I like StreamYard better, but I'm not paying $430 for a hobby.
Did they do this during Christmas last year?
Yeah, they actually did it like last August, but it was only like a 40% sale then. But because I've been 3 years straight up until last year when they raised the price, got a package every year around Christmas time. And then when they bumped the price up to $430, I said, no. No.
Well, I might do that if they do that. Then we'll see. I don't know. I'd like to look at some more videos on their functionality and see what they're doing for that.
Yeah, EV Mux really let me down last time. I did share screen on a video because I was playing it.
That's why I kind of brought it up, because we weren't seeing the video, man.
Yeah, so all people can hear is me breathing into the microphone, and I didn't know that.
Wow, is this OnlyFans?
Right. Yeah, suddenly the people started paying me. I'm like, why? I'm like, oh, okay.
And this is only the preview. Yeah. I think I like this channel.
Yeah, there you go. So.
No, I think a lot of us were side chatting is what a lot of us were still hanging around for. There was a bit of side banter going on. We were aware you were breathing and talking. We weren't seeing the video.
Yeah.
We had the pauses in between where we're assuming that the video was playing, but
yeah, I was frustrated by that for sure. So I'm going to try something different. I'll try Restream later today, see how it goes.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know the windows that are kind of available in the community presently. I say in the community, I'm sure it's big enough that if you get into more and more of the streamers, that every hour of the day might be taken up. But I'm going to try to find one that is slightly off from, like, even streaming today. I go to Captive Desk all the time. My damn earpiece falling out. I go to Captive Desk all the time, and there's a handful of other ones, and I don't want to step on those toes much, but I do want to find me a little niche of where I'm going to try to come in and figure out what I want to do. But I'd love to just kind of have these laid back kind of conversations with people, even if it does get into some depth of disagreement,
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, I like Skeptic Lou's kind of. He just jumps on there, but I do think that there are more standardized formats that'll wind up getting more people in. So I'd like to probably schedule some conversations. And
I think of habits. That's why.
Yeah, absolutely.
Like 5 o'clock. Generally, I watch Dave. Then I jump on Rabid Atheist, and once in a while I'll stream after him. If not, I think like Filbert. I don't know if you know any of these people that he streams. So you get to a point like, oh my God, but then at some point you have to say, okay, basically screw everybody else. I'm just going to go here. No offense to whoever it is.
Yeah, it's
literally.
I pop around. And I tell you, I jump in all the time on tacos because tacos sometimes will have some good stuff going on, but then sometimes I jump in there and there's just a shit flinging contest going on, and I'm like,
right.
I can't do this.
If JL's in there, I'll listen to it. I never type in it because I care less to add to it. But without JL, I usually don't hang in there very long.
Yeah, and JL makes his low blows too. JL makes his low blows too, and I have kind of come on, man. Yeah, do us better than this. Do us prouder than this. But
next time you see JL, ask him about gay whale rights. He'll appreciate that.
Right. Okay.
Well, actually become part of a cult.
JL is a powerhouse
on there on the Fangs thing.
Yeah. Yeah, I tell you who's underestimated. I don't think they have a channel, and I wish they did. I'd love to conversate with him more, and that's Howdy. Howdy's solid. I like Howdy. But me and Kurt's chatted a little bit over there, and Kurt's a good guy. He sent me a book that he's working on, and I read through a good bit of it. And he definitely got into kind of the religious history side of things to figure out how everything shook out. I think he went a little bit too much Chris Carrier for my taste. because he's gotten away from a little bit of the mainstream scholarship, even in the critical scholarship. But, it takes all types to make a world, and I'm still interested in hearing different perspectives.
Yeah, same. And I've been spending time lately on these voice server things that are meant for foreign language, where people can go into rooms and any topic and just talk in the language they're trying to learn.
Chat for free or something it is?
Yeah, there's some like that. There's a couple of different ones. Free for Talk, High Locale.
Free for Talk, that's the one.
Yeah. And
I think it was either you or somebody else I heard talking about this. So was you talking about it on your channel? I did talk about that, yeah. And a guy named Phil O'Sober has his own channel, and he goes in there to do that. It's really easy to get theists to come in and talk, but the problem is that they're not great at apologetics. The theists that are coming in, right? It's really, really easy stuff. It's really low hanging fruit, and
bottom of the barrel.
Yeah, it's bottom of the barrel. These people,
Literally.
Right. And so the conversations are maybe not great. So it's quantity over quality. And so I haven't really been streaming with it, but it's been interesting to at least have conversations over there.
Seen some more people watching here. Just want to give a PA. Anybody that wants to come in and chit chat. This is my first live stream, and I do want to just kind of say hey to everybody. Hope to be doing some more of these. I don't know. Maybe I'll mess with it on Saturday. This hour doesn't seem to be a very busy hour, so I might settle somewhere around here, but we'll just have to see how it goes.
Yeah. As far as on if it helps, anything before, like I said, Dave seems to be pretty open of the ones that I follow anyway, and I've got like probably 200 channels listed on mine, if that helps. And most of them are probably atheist related.
Yeah. Like I said, I think I would love the best for preachers. I would love kind of an atheist and a preacher talk. I'd like to have that weekly, and have different preachers that we just conversate and fill them out. And I don't think any of the people on the other side are amoral or that they're out to deceive or screw anybody over. I think they've got some epistemological problems, but I think their hearts.
I might be able to introduce you to a pastor just for that.
Okay. That'd be great.
Like I said, if you pop over at Gangster's channel, there's a guy, Christian Pike. He's a pastor, down to earth. He's not whacked out in his beliefs, but I mean, he doesn't believe in the Trinity and a few things like that. So he gets hammered on those issues. And I mean, I've never seen him really get mad at anybody that disagreed with him ever. I mean, he's like a good downhole, good old boy, literally, but nice guy.
Yeah.
Matter of fact, he's got my phone number, if that tells you anything.
There you go. Well, I don't mind.
That's just from my deathbed conversion. When it's, I need somebody to convert me. I always heard atheists have got to convert when they're on their deathbeds.
Yeah. The one thing that I'm a little concerned with pastors, more so maybe than apologetics even. And don't get me wrong, I still prefer to talk to pastors and preachers than apologetics. But the one thing that I say is they are more motivated, that they think that the conversation is going towards conversion, that they have this ideal of, I'm going to bring them to Jesus.
Right.
Whereas apologetics might be more disillusioned of that.
Well, that's
they may have
to bring in the money, not the conversions.
Yeah. But even then, their heart's in the right place for it. They're saving a soul. And that's the reasoning behind it. I don't think it's anything more than that.
I think it's a mix. I think a lot of them really believe in it, like you're saying. But I do think that some of them know the score and they're grifting with it.
Well, yeah, I mean, if you get into even after one debate, if somebody tells you something, say about even if it's evolution, and then the next day you act like you've never even heard that, eventually you've got to understand or have a basic concept of it if you didn't already, and you're just ignoring everything that you've ever been told by the opposing person.
Right.
I think apologetics does that more, though. That they're showing two faces, like, and we.
Well, that's what I was talking about. Apologetics. Sorry about that.
We've seen this in conversations with, like, Alex O'Connor was talking to, what's his name? I can't think. Jordan Peterson. That. He may have this conversation that's a very, like, this is more symbolic. This is more, he doesn't take these stories in a literal sense, but we might have that understanding from him on this side of the conversation that he's not seeing this as literal. But on the other side, like the followers of that religion, they take it as that, no, he means literally Adam and Eve and this carriage. So there is almost this, that, and you see this with Dinesh too. You know, he can back it way out and say, well, this is symbology and all. Whereas when he's talking to his audience, when he's doing his pandering, there's not that distinction. He doesn't make the distinction that this is symbolic. That, you know, there's this, in the literal sense, you know. So I think that's showing two different faces. And I think that a lot of them know that when they're pushed on the issue that this is all symbology, but whenever they're pandering to their group, they never make the distinction.
Right. Yeah, I see that a lot.
Yeah. So, but yeah, I think what do you have set hours, James? Do you do a scheduled thing?
No, but it would be a good idea if I did, right? Like I probably should. Just randomly go on.
Yeah, and you know, one person that does more of this random going on than anybody that I know is Deconverted Man. He does this, just will pop on randomly. I don't think there's a rhyme or reason to it. I
swear I've seen him do a stream in the bathroom one time. I really did at 3:00 in the morning.
yeah. I swear they do seem to, and maybe he does have some in between that are like scheduled, and I just haven't figured it out. But yeah, he's an all right guy. I'm not sure that his methodology is quite my flavor, but he's an all right guy. I like him. He goes for the throat a little bit, and he doesn't mind the low-hanging fruit at all. Come on, low-hanging fruit.
That's fair.
That's all right, though. That's all right.
Yeah.
But I think anybody that's done even a response video has always started with the low. I know I did when I was over at Joe's channel. I mean, because I think we were both like, oh my gosh, we don't want to look like idiots, but we don't want to look, you know. So it's like this guy Corky, and he's still going around. It's funny every time I see this guy, and we did 3 response videos to him, and we didn't release one of them because by the time we got done with the second one, it was like we felt dirty, and that this guy was like really meant. And I don't mean this as an ad hominem, but literally that I feel that he's, you know, mentally ill.
Yeah. No. Some people just latch to an ideal really, really hard, and it's like even if when it's got holes all in it, they're like, some part of their wheel fills those holes all in, you know. And no, this will work.
Yeah, but definitely don't go after like William Lane Craig for your first response video. You know, at least I don't. I'd get my feet wet and see if I wanted to even do this.
Yeah. And I mean, if you're going to do a response video and you're not live streaming it and you've had a lot of time to think about it and kind of research and pick apart, hey, where all the errors and everything's at, then that might be a whole nother thing. But I keep seeing the numbers here on viewing going up and down. I think people are poking in and out, but anyone that comes in here, we do have a link up here. If you do want to poke in and say, hey, please do. But I keep seeing a few other faces just come in, or SFA faces. It just shows on the viewership that it keeps going up and then it'll drop off for a little bit.
That happens a lot, especially on Saturdays. A lot of people just hop between the different channels.
Yeah, absolutely. I've definitely done it myself. I'll skip through and see, is there a subject matter that somebody's talking about? And there are some subjects that are like really dear to people that like, oh, I love this subject. Like earlier, I heard you mention in the bear, that the she bear that came out.
Yeah,
the she bear, man. I love this conversation for some reason.
It's weird though, because the guy was, you know, there's 3 verses basically saying there's a guy named Eliza. There's a group of 42 kids. They get mauled. End of story. That's it. There's nothing else. But he's trying to paint this picture. Well, they were in a narrow, you know, alleyway, and they weren't really kids. They were, you know, gang members. And you have to realize this area's history of, you know, and it's like, wait a second. Okay, tell me about this history that that you know of. Well, just Google it. You know what I'm talking about. No, you're telling this. So, well, this was like, and here's the funny click that, you know, I want to do response video, you know, to this stupidity.
Yeah. There's all kind of ways to approach it. You can play the same card and you can say, well, let's look at this a different way. If this was a known prophet and the kings were of the same religion in Judea, for example, this was a known prophet. He may very well have guards that follows this prophet along. Because if the king accepts this person as a prophet, he would even have guards with him. So we can make a lot of presuppositions from this and say, well, so the prophet's walking along with two guards, and then some kids call him bald-headed, and then what happens? Is it more likely that bears came out and killed these kids, or that him and these guards orchestrated with authority, hey, you kids come here, you have to this, and then what happens when a person is left there and there's 42 kids? What do you say? If you killed these 42 kids just because of your own piety, how dare these children call me bald-headed and did something extremely nefarious and wind up killing all of these kids? Then you have to say something about this historically. You have to speak to the parents that are all upset. So what's the best scapegoat? It's always the same best scapegoat. Well, the Lord moved. Right. The Lord did this. I mean, that's what we did with Sodom and Gomorrah. That was likely rolled. If this happens at all, this was likely destroyed by a group of army. But we didn't go in there and kill everyone. Brimstone came down and killed everybody. Of course.
We wouldn't kill them just right. We follow sticks and stones. We don't get offended by words.
So it may very well be the case that you have a prophet, you have multiple guards, and that the prophet is pious and has never been spoken to this way. And he decides that he killed all these kids. And now when the kids are all done and we have to have an explanation for all these bodies, then it's like, the Lord sent two she-bears out of the woods and they killed all of these kids. And that makes sense. Yeah, I'm going.
And we made our escape in our Humvees or whatever.
Right. They didn't touch me in the guards. So if you want to get extra biblical and start throwing narrative, I mean, you could do the same. That's a two-way street.
It's always what they do. Right? They always create stories around the story that gives the story a completely new context. So it's not usually the atheist pulling the quote or the event out of context. It's the Christian creating a new context out of thin air about history and about circumstance, and then to try to make it all come right. And they still end up failing in the end. It still doesn't really make it come right.
Yeah, and there's a lot of talking about. It's 2 Kings. What is it? 2:23 through 27.
I have no idea. It is in 2 Kings. I don't know anything more than that.
I'm just saying that. So this way, if they want, they can go look. And literally, there's only 3 verses there, and nothing about great crowds or guards or
It doesn't cover that. We got to create the narrative and the environment in which
make it much more worse than it was.
What's interesting is Eusebius, later he had a letter that was written to him trying to
23 through 25.
He said the guy that was writing to him, I can't think of the name, but he was trying to harmonize the events of the resurrection, of what time it happened when the resurrection happened. And he was mentioning Mark. And this is one of the verses where Eusebius said, well, in the oldest versions, we didn't even have the long ending of Mark. So in this case, we can rely on Matthew's documentation of how the event happened. This was kind of from Eusebius. It was like, well, don't even bring Mark's ending in and try to have it argue with the time frame of when the resurrection, the hour in which the resurrection happened. Because Eusebius points out that the oldest documents that we have of the ending of Mark that has this time, that the oldest documents don't even have the long ending. But this was a guy that was trying to rectify what looked like contradictions in the timing. And he's writing to Eusebius, like, how do I harmonize this? How do I make these two things not contradictory? And Eusebius, because it was just a private writing back and forward, Eusebius was like, just disregard Mark's long ending, man. Just disregard that. It's not even in the oldest text.
It's got to be. It's in the King James Version. It's got to be there.
Right. But Eusebius, we're talking like 320 somewhere. I don't know when that letter was written specifically, but I think it's around 320, 324, somewhere in there that this letter is happening. It's right before the Council of Nicaea. So this is when that kind of engagement is happening, and he's trying to create harmony with the two stories. And how do we make these work? And Eusebius is just like, forget about Mark. Just forget about it.
Good times.
Yeah. But all right, I was only going to run this for an hour. An hour and a half is what I planned on running here. I just wanted a soft introduction to say hello to everyone. and get an opportunity for a few people to poke in here. Do wish I had a few more, but quality over quantity, they say. So I appreciate you gentlemen coming in and saying, hey, if y'all don't know, I will put a link for Mr. James' channel in the description. And Ashho, he is over there on the Gangster Talk that he's on from time to time. So I'll put both these links in the description. James, do you want to send me yours that I could throw it up there, or just put it in the description? Okay with you?
Oh, either way is fine. It doesn't matter. Just
That'd be great.
Drop it in there somewhere.
Excellent. Well, I thank you for joining. I thank y'all for watching. Y'all have a great day and take care.
Thank you. Thank you, Robert.
Later, man.
Bye.